So I've done this with pick number 1, pick number 2, and pick number 3. This time I'm going to be ranking from 1 to, I believe, 24. Every pick number 4 in the AFL draft in the 21st century. So since 2000 and onwards, every pick number 4, let's rank them. In 24th is Tim Walsh. Now, Tim Walsh was drafted at pick number 4 in 2002. He played the one game. So let's put him down in last. Second last in 23rd is Jared Pickett. Drafted to GWS in 2014, didn't have the career we all thought he would, playing 17 games. I believe he went to Carlton, didn't play a game there, only kicked the 8 goals, pretty bad career. Third last in 22nd is Anthony Morabito, who was picked to Fremantle in 2009, only playing 26 games, kicking 14 goals. Once again, a pretty forgetful career. 21st is a little bit more recognizable. Jimmy Toumpas I have in 21st, sorry. He was drafted in 2012 to Melbourne. He played 37 games, kicking 27 goals, but didn't have the career we all thought he would. Look, pick number 4 is meant to be a generational career, and right now no one's speaking to that. In 20th, I've got the first pick of the 21st century. In 2000s, Luke Livingston was drafted to Carlton and only playing 46 games. You would say it's a pretty failed career. 19th is Cale Morton, who was drafted to the Melbourne Football Club in 2007. Played the 76 games, unfortunately only kicking 34 goals. Not the career we thought he would have. Also, really quick, Jimmy Toumpas only kicked 7 goals. I don't know where I got 27 goals from. In 18th is a famous draft pick for my club, Richard Tamblyn, who was drafted to Richmond in 2004 when we could have drafted Buddy Franklin. We obviously missed on Buddy to choose Richard Tamblyn instead. One of the greatest failures in the draft period since it was created. To take such a generational, to miss on a generational player for him. Look, Tamblyn actually had a decent career. Obviously for Adelaide, he had a better career than for Richmond. 124 games in total, 62 goals. It's not the worst career, but it's still awful. But is it better than my 17th place Graham Polak, who was drafted in 2001 to the Fremantle Football Club? He played 111 games. He had a decent career, kicking 25 goals. In 16th is Matthew Leuenberger. The ruck, he didn't spark much interest in me. He was drafted to, I believe, the Brisbane Football Club in 2006. As a ruckman, not an amazing player. He did play 137 games for many clubs, but just didn't do it. In 15th, I've got Farron Ray, who was drafted to the Western Bulldogs in 2003. These are where the careers, in my opinion, start to get pretty luxurious in the upper echelons. Given that Farron Ray did play a grand total of 209 games, he did kick the 59 goals, and overall, he had a pretty impressive career, and you can't complain too much playing over 100 games with the Dogs. And 14th, I've got a current player still playing, the first current player. It shows that the history early on in the draft, we didn't really know who you were drafting at pick number 4, but nowadays, pick number 4 is going to be a good player. I think, look, Ben Ainsworth is my 14th pick. He was drafted to Gold Coast in the draft of 2016. He's got plenty of time in his career left. That would make him 27, something like that. But unfortunately, it's not been as stellar as I thought. He's played 134 games, kicked 114 goals to be fair, but I don't look at him as a pick number 4, and when you hear the rest of the picks, you'll understand why I don't have him as high as others. 13th is Hamish Hartlett, recently retired, drafted to Port Adelaide in 2008, just under 200 games at 193, super versatile, a very good kick, and an all-round very good Port Adelaide legend. It doesn't get that high in this draft, or in this re-pick draft type video. In 12th, I've got Logan McDonald, and you might be saying, well, Logan McDonald has done nothing compared to Hamish Hartlett. For all of the young players who have much of their career to go, I'm sort of hypothesizing how well they will do. I'm looking at them now and going, they've shown enough. I think they're going to do this well. I think they're going to do this well. And I think Logan McDonald will have a good career, but so far, he hasn't looked as amazing as I thought. He was drafted in 2020, so he's got so much time left to Sydney, but he's had the opportunity to take over Buddy's role. I don't think he's grabbed it like we all thought he would. Now, he has kicked 93 goals from 70 games, which is really impressive. I kind of highly doubt that, but apparently that's true. So you cannot blame him for that, but I just have more higher. And by the way, I'm not putting Sid Draper in this list, who was drafted to Adelaide recently in the AFL 2024 draft. In 11th place, I do have Zane Dersma, who was drafted to North Melbourne. He's only played one season, 13 games according to this. according to some draft guru source. He has kicked the 9 goals, but he has gotten that amazing specky against Richmond, and he has looked pretty exciting. And for me, I think he's going to have a better career than McDonald, Hartlett, Ainsworth, etc., etc. But I didn't want to put him that much higher because, look, we've seen one season. How are you meant to conclusively know where he'll match up against some of the other pick number 4s? And by the way, later on in this, you will get some of the best players we've seen in recent history. Moving on to my 10th place. I did want to have him higher, but I've kept him down because we have some really good names coming up. I've got George Wardlaw, who was drafted the year before Dersma to North Melbourne. He is so young, so exciting, and so fucking good, but it's just, once again, that little bit too early to say, yeah, he's going to be as good as some of these other players. In 9th, I've got Max Kin. He really should be higher, but he just cannot stay injury-free. He was drafted a while ago now, in 2018, to St Kilda. He's kicked 160 goals from 83 games. He's a fantastic player, but he has played less games than the draftee after him, and played just a few more games than Nick Dacos, who was 3 drafts after him. His body just can't stay fit, and I think because of that, I've put him quite low. When he's fit, I think he's better than a lot of these players though. Now, I've just changed my 8th place on the spot. I did originally a player who I put into 6, but now my 6th place has gone down to 8. I've got Will Hoskin-Elliott in 8th place. One of the more underrated careers in the AFL, currently still playing. He has played a whopping 224 games for both Collingwood and the Giants, but famous for Collingwood, famous for helping them win that 2023 flag, famous for his contribution to the 2018 grand final team, and overall, such an underrated player, but there's just a few better. And that does include my pick number 7. I'm going pretty early with this guy. Lachie Ash, I have gone with the running halfback who is starting to transfer and transform to different positions. He was drafted in 2019 to the Giants, played 100 games now, 101, and I just think he is fantastic. I really do think he is like a Lachie Whitfield regen, but I think he can offer more. I honestly think he can, and to be completely honest, it might be a little bit crazy to say that, but I've said it, and that's something that I've just got to predict. I've predicted him to keep going, and I think Lachie Ash will start to be a mainstayer in the All-Australian in the next few years. My 6th place now, who was originally 8th place, like I've already described this, but I've gone with LDU. I did have him in 8th originally because I thought, for someone who looked so good for so long, he really has never lived up to it. But to be fair, he's just won the best and fairest for North Melbourne. He was drafted all the way back in 2017, so he's been in the system for a while. He's played just only over 100 games. That did not make any English sense. I'm not coherent, I'm not cogent right now, but the fact of the matter is, LDU, he's always threatened to be that Marcus Bontempelli regen. Tall, strong, nimble, really good skills, but unfortunately, he's never taken that next step for me, but he's still a phenomenal player. He's still really exciting, and I still think at the end of his career, he will be around the 6th place. Top 5 now. Now we get into stars in their position. 5th place, I've got a winger who was an absolute colossal player for so long. Longevity, unfortunately missed out on the flag in 2018 for West Coast. It's Andrew Gaff. Andrew Gaff had a phenomenal career, drafted all the way back in 2010, which makes him, I don't even know, like 33 now. He's retired now. He played 280 games, just under 300, kicked quite a few goals at 84, 110 Brownlow votes, and this is when we start to get into those players with the awards. He's won the All-Australian, he's got an All-Australian jacket in 2015 and 2018, best and fairest in 2015, which was that premiership. No, yeah. 2015 was the premiership, not the premiership, the grand final team. West Coast losing the grand final that year. All-Australian 40 in 2016, 19, 20. And obviously a unsung hero of the flag, if that makes sense. If there was an award for players who deserve a medal but didn't get it, he's one of those players. 5th place, I think, suits him well. But the top 4, I think, separates themselves from the rest of the competition. Well, the rest of the draft picks. Well, pick number 4. 4th is Clayton Oliver, who you might be thinking, well, this is too high, this is too low. The fact of the matter is, yes, he's had a really poor season as a recent, but the years before that, he was close to winning Brownlows. He was best in his position. He fixed up his disposal use, which he has now reverted back to. But at the time, for those few years where he was up in the Brownlow, he could actually kick a football properly. He could damage with the ball, and I think 4th place suits him well. There are better players in this draft who we'll get onto. But he was drafted all the way back to Melbourne in 2015, making him relatively old now. He's won All-Australian jackets in 2018, in 2021, and in 2022. AFL CA Champion Player of the Year in 2021. In 2022, best and fairest in 2017, 19, 21, and 22. All-Australian 40 in 2020 doesn't count. And obviously was a big contributor to the flag they won in 2021. Could he be higher? Possibly when we get on to the next picks, but for me, in terms of a midfielder, he wasn't the best in his position. For a few years, he was threatening to be one of the best we've seen in recent years. He's like fumble around with shit, but he's only 4th. In 3rd, I've got a guy famous for his beard, for his stutter steps, running up to kick a goal. One of the, he's in that argument for, apart from Buddy Franklin, one of the next best key forwards since 2000. It is Josh Kennedy, not the Sydney Swans, Hawthorn Josh Kennedy. It's the Carlton, because he was drafted to Carlton way back when in 2005. He was drafted seemingly yonks ago, but his time was known for playing for the West Coast Eagles, where he would win Coleman's actually in 2015 and 16, 3 All-Australians in 15, 16, 17, Premiership in 2018, and overall just enormously, I can't even speak English for fuck's sake, enormously consistent, which is one of the key pillars of his game, is that consistency, constantly hitting the scoreboard, relatively injury-free, was a leader, and stood up in the big moments, in the big games. He's kicked 723 goals, and like I said, exclude Buddy, the next picks are, there's so many names, but he belongs in that conversation at least for the top 5 since 2000 of key forwards. And he's better in his position than Clayton Oliver is. But yeah, 293 games, so close to 300. Okay, so we're into the top 2 now. I will tell you number 1 and number 2. In order, it's Bontempelli and Nick Dacos, or Nick Dacos and Bontempelli. One of them's 1, one of them's 2. Now, they're very different in terms of their careers. Bont's played the majority of his career, and will start to tip off his prime relatively soon, the next few years. Dacos, let's assume he might be at his prime, but he's still so young. Look, his prime, relatively speaking, he's reaching up. So they're at very different points of their careers. So a lot of this is estimating, well, can Nick Dacos keep it up? What's the Bont going to do in his older age? Will he do what Scott Pendlebury did? Continue to be an amazing player. And at the end of this, I sort of thought, well, balancing these up, I'm going to just choose personal preference. And at the end of both their careers, who would have been more justified to be a pick number 4? Who would have been the better player, the better attributes, everything about them as a footballer? Who was better? And that's why I do have Nick Dacos at pick number 2. I have him, or at number 2. And I do have Marcus Bontempelli at number 1. Honestly, it's splitting hairs. It is genuinely the finite details of the draft. I'll talk about Nick Dacos first. Drafted only a few years ago in 2021. I mean, what's he now, like 22 or some shit? 21? It's insane how well he's playing. The only unfortunate thing of his career so far, he's basically done everything, but he hasn't won the Brownlow. Should he have won? Yeah, he should have won 2 years ago, but unfortunately, the injury came to him later on in that season when Colin won the flag in 2023. In 2024, for me, he was as good as Cripps, but Cripps, for some reason, somehow paid the umpires. I'm not going to get into that. He's won All Australians, 2 now in 2023 and 2024. Rising star, AFL CO Player of the Year in 2024. The Best and Fairest in 2024. AFL PA First in 2022. The Flag in 2023. Having only played 70 games and already got 77 Brownlow votes, averaging more than 1 a game is insane. Yes, he's only kicked 46 goals. Could he hit the scoreboard more? Maybe. But the fact of the matter is, Nick Dacos is generational. And there is a chance, and it's definitely possible, he can outdo Marcus Bontempelli's legacy. But I do not know it as of yet. The Bont now, All-Australian in 2016, 19, 20, 21, 23, 24. MVP in 21, 23, 24. AFL CA in 2019. Best and Fairest in like literally 6-7 years. So many. 2 All-Australian 40s as well, and a Premiership in 2016. And also was the highest rated player in that 2016 Grand Final. Should have won the Norm Smith. Whatever, they gave it to JJ. Who cares? It's splitting hairs. In terms of player for player, look, I think Bontempelli already strikes me as a better leader, but Dacos has so many leadership attributes, so how can you say that? I just think on their day, I prefer Bontempelli. I prefer the guy who can do it all. He can tackle, he can mark, he can handball, he can kick, he's evasive, he's strong, he's a goal kicker, he's a defensive mastermind. I mean, some of the spoils and the contested marks he takes in defense. He does it all, he's done it all, he's arguably the greatest Bulldog of all time, and Dacos could be the greatest Pie of all time, but I just think because he hasn't done it, because he's so young, which is not his fault, right now, I choose Bont over Dacos. But in 5-10 years, if I'm alive and I do this again, touch wood I'm alive, it might be the other way around. Okay, and that's the fact of the matter with this. A lot of it is hypothesizing, a lot of it is speculating the futures of these players. And that's the draft video. Thank you for watching.